Go ahead and ask the meeting to order.
All right, this time we'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. Joe, please call the roll.
Thank you. Commissioner Penny.
Here.
Commissioner Curry.
Here.
Commissioner Danio.
Still here.
Commissioner Johnson.
I'm still here.
Mayor Villa.
Here, thank you very much. And now you can go again, Jeanette.
Thank you. As I said, I'm Jeanette Durr, representing Synergy Billing at 1200 Center Street in Holly Hill, Florida. And as Joe mentioned, with me here is Mike Meyer, who is our Chief Financial Officer, Patrick Murphy, Patrick Kennedy. He's one of the Kennedys. Patrick Kennedy, who is, as Joe mentioned, a city planner, a city manager, and an attorney. So we hit the mother load when Patrick joined our team, and I think you'll see how much he adds to that. We're going to begin with a little presentation. Now, Joe, are you the guy?
I'm going to be your controller.
Okay, and Jason is going to do the first part of this presentation. So I'm going to turn you around to kind of face the commission here, Jason. Can you see them?
I can see many of them. Hello,
Well-
Commission. It's good to see you virtually. This brave new world of Zoom meetings.
Yeah.
Can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay, great.
You can probably set it on top of that speaker there. Will it balance up
Nope.
there? But that, no?
My name is Jason Meyer, 1200 Center Avenue, and I'm the founder and CEO of Synergy Billing and managing partner at Fountainhead Developers. And, it's been a little while since I was able to stand before you and update you on the public-private partnership that we have been working on together over these past, nearly 5 years now. Now, this evening, I do have some updates to share with you, not just on the Fountainhead project, but on some of the initiatives that we are doing within Synergy Billing to expand and create new jobs, as well as enhance our training programs. So the first part of this, I'd like to share some updates from within inside Synergy. And before we really kick that off, there is just a brief video that if we're able to hit play, it's only just a couple minutes. It just kind of shows some of the events leading up to now over at the 1200 Center Avenue site.
Can you see the screen, Jason?
I can, yeah.
Okay.
And there is a little audio. I don't know if the audio is playing or
I
not, but
don't have any.
it's a lot more engaging when the audio is.
You could sing, Jason.
I think I would run you out of the chambers there if I sang.
If we'd known, we
There's a
would
lot
have
of
brought the
things that
boys, though.
Yeah.
See the progress photos. Anyway, we can't hear the music.
Well, I can do some. If you're not hearing anything, I'd be happy to talk about some of these, because each one of these is is a memory as well as an event. And I always look at construction photos and videos, and you're like, okay, what is great? You move some dirt, but I would say each of these images has some significance in the different stages of the project development. And of course, when we first started, all we had on site there was the gymnasium building and the media center. And, we wanted to pay homage to the history of the space, and we wanted to retain some of the original structure. One time it was debated, is it even worthwhile doing that? And I think the conclusion was overwhelmingly yes, but also not just from economics, but as well from historical perspective. We wanted to pay homage to the fact that this did used to be a school site. And of course, the first phase and part of what we're updating you on this evening is as we're in the final stages of what we call phase one of the Fountainhead development. The major objective was to relocate the Synergy Billing business, to move approximately 100 jobs, and to lay the groundwork through horizontal infrastructure that would support the overall development of the 25-acre site. And we've achieved the majority of these objectives, and in a moment we'll update you on some more of where the project's at in these final stages. But before we do that, a few things to share with you on job creation. Because in the beginning of this vision for the Fountainhead development, the reason that this was imagineered in the very beginning was to create a home, an environment that would attract and retain other bright minds, but would also serve as a home for my business, Synergy Billing, and the other companies and projects that I'm working on, and would be a way to continually develop new talent so that the challenges that we'd faced in the past of the proverbial brain drain, or when we talk about how our biggest export has been talent in the past, we wanted to upend that. And so back in 2006, when I first imagineered the Fountainhead, it was designed to be a very vibrant little ecosystem within another community where folks could create and could collaborate and could imagine the future. And so as Synergy Billing was growing, was adding even more jobs, we were faced at a crossroad of whether to invest in that future now or to defer it to later. And we chose to invest in partnership with the city of Holly Hill to bring that vision to reality. And in the spirit of public-private partnership, it not just improves the overall neighborhood and community, but it brings jobs to Holly Hill. But now into this project, we are 2 years in. Synergy has been here for 2 years, and we haven't really talked about the job creation and the initiatives that Synergy and Fountainhead are doing that go along with that. And I thought it was interesting to put things in perspective, and that's what this slide, which if you're looking at the same thing I am right now, it says update on job creation.
That's right.
And
That's
it's perspectives from myself, founder and CEO. So, I think that there was so much anticipation for us at Synergy and myself, this being a dream of mine for so long, that when we moved in, it was such a glorious day. We didn't know what to do. We didn't know how to work. We didn't know how to operate. And it took a little time to really feel settled and to figure out how we would be using all this new space and adapting our workflows and business processes into this space. And it took just a couple of months to do that, but it was a little different than first anticipated. And as we made the move into the Fountainhead, pardon me for a moment, I just had a Zoom. Okay. We were fortunate to land some new client contracts, and we had some growth just a few months after moving in to the Fountainhead campus. And we began doing some hiring. And this leads us into the beginning of 2020. And for us, it started off first as just some decreases in volume. It turned into quite a battle, and it definitely had an impact to our growth plans. And I would say that as we landed these 2 new accounts, the end of 2019, they required about 15 new workers at the Fountainhead campus. During the 2020 calendar year, we had around 10 open positions all year. And it became very challenging. We could not find talent. So we had to come up with ways to work smarter. We've made commitments to our clients. They were depending on us. And of course, the important work that we do at Synergy Billing helps these nonprofit community health centers across the country to provide access to care for folks that normally couldn't get it elsewhere. So us maintaining the cash flow in these health centers is really, really important to their survival. So even during COVID, our workers continued to do the processing necessary. And they did that with less resources than are actually needed to do the job. And it was really quite impressive because they came together because they believe in what they do. But at the same time, the way that this impacted the Synergy business is that we were stretched very thin, and it definitely took its toll. So after navigating through the majority of the COVID crisis, and I'm not certain that the crisis per se has ended, it's just become more manageable now with vaccinations, regardless where you stand politically on the matter. It's made it a safer environment where we can continue to conduct business. And with that going on, we've made the decision, we're done with just surviving, and it's time to thrive. And so when we got to the midpoint of 2021, we went through the COVID majority of those battles. We faced the aftermath of that, is that it wasn't just dealing with it, navigating through it, it's playing the catch-up game. And so the first half of the year, I'd say, in the Synergy business, there was a bit of firefighting that went on. So we made the decision that we've invested even more than we'd first anticipated here at the Fountainhead. We had originally made a $5 million commitment for the first phase. And of course, with the cost of things increasing, and everything always costs more, and that's now increased to just over $7 million that's been spent. So we've made this investment in Synergy's future, the future of Holly Hill, and the future of my vision for the Fountainhead. And now we believe it's time to double down on that investment. And I'm making a similar investment, not the same dollar amount, but a similar investment directly into the Synergy business to help fuel growth, not just of new jobs and positions, but so that the Synergy business is poised for growth and expansion. So now that it's never been tougher to be recruiting and trying to ramp up a workforce, we're having to think of very, again, creative and innovative ways to get there. So I'd like to, if you wouldn't mind just advancing the slide forward for me.
Yeah, this shows the investment to date and breaks it down.
Okay. Yeah, so I just think it's important to put into perspective that this truly is a public-private partnership. And in the beginning, it's been tumultuous at times, and great relationships, like great marriages or great partnerships, they take effort at times. It's not always easy. But at the end of the day, when you come together for the right reasons, which I think we all share a love and passion for this community, we all have ambitions. We see what Holly Hill can become and is becoming. And we believe it's a fertile ground for growth of a business like ours and others. So when we look at the investment to date, what we see is that when we talk about $7 million, when you hear about that number in broad strokes, sure, it's a lot of money. But how that money has been spent, I think, is very telling. And there's been $4 million of those dollars that's gone into renovation, build out, new vertical construction. And of course, jobs take space. You can't create jobs if you don't have anywhere for the employees to work. So the first mission was get Synergy Billing in here and create space for it to add jobs. And now we have the ability to go to around 250 or so in the space that we have. And we have to have parking as well. So those were two really critical parts of this first phase. We've installed the underground utilities infrastructure necessary to support the long-term growth of the campus. So there's a lot of front-end loaded costs there, and that's helped to provide for phase one and future phases. There's been investments in parking lot and stormwater retention that are approximately $500,000. And landscaping has probably been one of our single biggest investments. And I won't use the word expense because it's an investment. And what we've created and we continue to plant and create is just going to create a beautiful tropical look and feel in the middle of this infill area that as people come and they walk their dogs and they ride their bikes, they already comment on it. And it's great to be able to go in the middle of the day for a walk around the pond and see the beautiful landscaping. So we've landscaped property that even right now we don't own. We have the option to purchase it, which is one of the things that we'd like to talk to you about this evening. But we've made investments like this and like this landscaping in anticipation that we'll be able to bring my vision to life over time. And one of the things that my team members are going to talk to you about this evening is just the option that gives us the ability to buy that land and some different dates that have come up. But I don't want to get ahead of myself. A couple of final thoughts on just the investment and things that we're doing related to job creation. And then I'd like to turn it back over to my colleagues. So the next thing that you can see is a press release that has been released internally into certain segments, but we're trying to get all of the job postings online before we send this out in a mass submittal. But essentially, this announcement, which was first released on July 19th, also my wife's birthday, so it's an interesting day. I chose it on purpose, but made a $500,000 investment into the Synergy business. This is through my private investment fund. And of course, I am a majority owner of Synergy Billing, so it is to my benefit. But the use of these proceeds is to expand recruiting, job creation, and training. And one of the things that has always made the Synergy business so unique are our training programs. And during the COVID crisis, it became extremely difficult to do these training programs, to the point of being unable to do these programs because most of them are in person. That was also one of our key funnels in our recruiting initiatives, was our experiential learning program, which took in folks from the outside, and they came on site for a 4-week, almost like an internship. And during that time period, we put them through training. And we had a statistical track record of hiring 85% of these individuals. During the past 18 or so months, we have been unable to manage that program just due to public safety, public health concerns. So it has diminished our ability to recruit. And so part of this investment is for us to expand programs like that. There's a quote here where it restates my intent to attract the best and brightest. And if we can't recruit the right talent, we will find quality people and teach them. And I view this as an investment in Synergy's future and Holly Hill's future, and nothing will stop us from achieving this goal. So Synergy Billing has always been the intended anchor tenant to the Fountainhead campus. But make no mistake, the Fountainhead is much bigger than just Synergy Billing. And in fact, this year alone, we've started 3 additional companies. One of them is a technology concern that automates claims processing, so a new startup business directly from the Fountainhead. And in addition to these, which are startup companies, we also have plans to attract and potentially acquire other existing businesses that would bring jobs into the campus. This is not much different than strategies employed by Brown & Brown and other large companies, where they acquire and then they relocate jobs. That's part of one of our components to the plan. But first and foremost is really about the Synergy business, trying to get the talent and the individuals that are needed into that business. And we expect that this investment will help to expand both training and recruiting. Which leads us to a program that was really essential to the formation of the Fountainhead strategy. And this program, called Career Ignite, many of you may recall this program. This was conducted several years ago right in Holly Hill. And what we did is we proved that with our curriculum and our training methods, we could take individuals that had no prior medical billing and coding experience, and we could teach them and train them from the ground up. And we implemented this program in a couple of classes. We called it Career Ignite, and it was done in partnership with the Career Source. And each of these individuals graduated this program and was able to get their certification as a certified professional coder. Excuse me. That certification is nationally recognized and commands an extra $1 to $2 per hour in the marketplace for jobs. So this is a program that we'll be investing in bringing back into Holly Hill and conducting from the Fountainhead campus.
Next, Joe. Oh, sorry.
Yep. So, and this is, so I don't get too long in the tooth. I want to make sure that there's time for meaningful conversation, and sometimes I can get a little wordy. This is kind of the last thing that I want to to share with you regarding updates. And this talks about investing in the future and doubling down on training and education. So, really there's three caveats here. One is investing, and the investing in what? So new and enhanced training programs is going to be one of the key things that we're doing. And these are programs that include management development as well as billing and coding. So it's not just a school or class for medical billing. We're going to continue to invest in the workplace environment. Synergy has previously been recognized as one of the best places to work. I think that managing the COVID crisis was challenging for any workplace and employer. As things reach more of a level of normalcy, we've returned to our roots with many of the culture initiatives. And of course, the hiring landscape has never been more challenging. So we have to continue to do things that differentiate our business and give us a competitive strength when recruiting jobs to Synergy and Fountainhead. Things that we'll be enhancing, recruiting or expanding our recruiting initiatives. You know, the things that used to work don't work the same way. We introduced a $250 referral bonus for internal staff. We have also introduced a mentorship program that rewards our existing Synergy employees for training and developing a new employee. And it provides them with a $500 incentive once the employee has passed our internal exams and a quality standards test. So I'm just sharing with you some of the tactics and ways that we'll be able to expand and fill those jobs at Synergy that are so needed right now. And of course, reinvesting in the employees that we have already. One of the things that Synergy has been known for the years is reinvesting in our people, expanding our training programs so that somebody can grow with the company and grow with us over time. We have many people, even those in management, that started off at entry-level positions and continued their education, their training, and now are in higher level positions. So that's a model we will continue to employ at Synergy. And then things that we'll be revisiting, I shared with you the Career Ignite program, which was a very successful program that was conducted right in Holly Hill. And it's a program that we have not had the opportunity to do a session of this at Fountainhead yet. So we're looking forward to that opportunity. Our experiential learning program, we call it an extern program. We do this in partnership with other local medical billing programs. And it's almost like a finishing school where these individuals come for 160 hours of experiential learning time. And we actually put them through a formal curriculum. And it gives us an opportunity to see them in action and to recruit the best. It's called the best of the litter, so to speak. And that leads to ultimately the Career Academy. And the reason that the school and the education piece is just such an important part of Fountainhead is you can teach people how to do a lot of things, but you can't make them care. So one of the recipes of Fountainhead and Synergy, the secret sauce, if you will, is you find people that give a darn. You know, find people that have passion, that have hunger. And we can always layer the technical skills on top of that, but there's just no substitute for giving a darn. So we try to find those types of people that share our values, and then we can train them. And of course, what we're looking for at Fountainhead is to utilize this as a mechanism of continuous workforce development. So as we get into different businesses and industries, or as we attract other compatible companies or acquire, that those individuals or those companies have a mechanism to train their workforce, new workforce members, and to do continuous learning and improvement. So the academy or school component is really the nucleus of the Fountainhead vision and dream. So such an important part, and part of what this investment back into Synergy is going to help us to expand, as well as expand some new positions that will help to support growth in years to come. So with that, I know I was a little long-winded, but I appreciate the opportunity to share with you some insights into the inner workings of the Synergy Building business.
Thank you, Jason. We're next going to hear some details about how we are coming in the final stages of Phase 1, and Patrick is going to share those with us.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. Patrick Kennedy, did we do the addresses here? Is that how you do it?
Yeah, for the record, and just move the microphone. Thank you.
124 Central Avenue, Crescent City, Florida. And as indicated, I'm here trying to help Jason and Fountainhead move this project to completion. Trying to use some of my city management, planning, and legal background to help them do that. You guys have been living with this a lot longer than me, so I'm not going to try to pretend to give you the entire history. Just trying to tell you where we're at from a short version. And you can go to the next slide. But jumping right to the bullet points there, essentially we feel we're 95% complete with this job. When you look at it, the project as a whole. Now, staff still has to be the final judge of that, obviously. But as you'll see, I think the landscaping is 95% complete. We've started the landscaping out at the wayfinding sign at the corner of LPGA and Center, and we've got a little bit of perimeter landscaping to do once. We're putting in some trees now, but Building D is still under construction, so we don't want to do too much landscaping on that perimeter landscaping until that's complete. But Building D is the last main structure. If you haven't been by there, and I got a couple pictures later in the presentation, it is the last main structure to be completed. And wayfinding sign, again, the structure there. I know that's been an infamous element of this whole thing, but it's been working hard to try to do something unique and different out there, and it has added some time, but also investment into the project. We think it's going to make it a better element than was first envisioned. And then obviously, once we get through those main elements there, the landscaping, Building D, and the wayfinding sign, we got to do our final site inspection. Staff has told us this can take up to a month just to kind of get through the whole process. They have agreed to try to work with us and do it in meaningful chunks. We have to make them meaningful, but in meaningful chunks so that we can keep it moving forward. But still, I understand that takes time, and there's more than one staff person that might be involved in that. We have to get our certificate of occupancy at the end of that inspection process, and then we have to go through the purchasing of parcel 1, which is called the initial option under the contract terms of the deal. That has to be done, and then we also have to exercise the first rolling option, which in this case would be parcel 3, which is on the Walker Street side. And the inspection, the closing on parcel 1, and the closing on parcel 2, all those things take time all by themselves. So that's one of the reasons why we need part of what's built into our request for additional time, which is where we're headed with this whole meeting. Currently, the deadline, when you read the contract, is August 31st, 2021, end of the month. And what does that mean? It mainly means we are supposed to have purchased, in order to exercise the rolling option on parcel 3, we have to exercise the option on parcel 1 first. We can't do that until we're done with phase 1. You guys have probably all heard this a million times. But we're not going to meet the August 31st deadline. I mean, just that much is clear. We even thought we had a glimmer of hope to be pretty close when we got to the in front of you guys to say, hey, well, maybe we don't need as much time as we thought. But right away we hit issues with getting roofing materials because building materials are just hard to get. So it's taken a couple weeks to get some of the roofing materials to try to get that building fully dried in, but it's they're on the way, and we're hoping to get that. Once that's done, that building's going to get knocked out pretty quick. So, again, it's a very, I guess, I don't know how to put this, but it seems like a lot in some respects, but once we get building D done, it's landscaping and a sign. That's what we're talking about here. It's just the time it takes for materials and get labor to show up. We want to build in enough leeway so we're not back here again asking for another extension. And we want to have time for staff to do their proper inspections and to address any things they might bring up. There might be something that we felt we completed, they don't, so we might have to work through that with them. And then we also want time to work through the closings on the properties. So you can advance to the next slide. Basically, as Jason's already mentioned, we're trying to continue forward with the public-private partnership. And I think Jason's pointed out that there's been a significant investment, a much larger investment than originally even envisioned just in this initial phase. And we're hoping everybody here can recognize that. We realize we got a little behind on this schedule here. COVID-19 is certainly a big contributor to that. But, we had some of our own early false starts, I guess, if you will, from what I've understood from the history. Had a little trouble getting started with the permitting from the city, but all those things got worked through. Anyone who's ever done a project this size knows, just when you think you're on track, you're going to hit some hiccups. But all in all, we feel like we've done a pretty good job trying to stay on it. And just when you're trying to get some momentum, we had the pandemic hit and clearly put us behind the 8 ball and also kind of reshifted the focus to, as Jason pointed out, the Synergy business itself with the issues with staffing and things of that nature because of the COVID. So again, I'm going to get a little bit more into where we're at in some slides that follow this. This is the status of the project right here. That's the entryway as it looks today. Well, not today with all the rain, but anyway, recently. And you can see, this is what Jason was pointing out. This is not a lowbrow investment in landscaping. You guys, and Jason and you guys are to be commended for getting a project to look like this. It's not easy. Landscaping's a difficult one, but I think that's also something he pointed out is this landscaping's been in a while, and so it shows they're taking care of it. The irrigation's in, they got the routine maintenance. That's all. I know that from a city manager's perspective. Always looks good when you first move in, but to getting them to take care of it afterwards is always a struggle. And I think Fountainhead has already demonstrated that they will and intend to maintain it. It's part of their plan. But this is what I'm calling a draft of Exhibit C. Most of you know what Exhibit C is, I believe. It's talked about a lot in our meetings. But this was attached to both the incentive agreement, a version of this, and to the MPUD, development agreement. And this shows phase 1, what the key elements that are required to be completed are. And you can see the yellow are the buildings. Again, 95% complete. What we're really focused on is the building in the bottom left corner there. That's building D. Everything in building B, C, and E is done. And we're in there, we're operating, and we've got space for those jobs that Jason spoke of and the training that Jason spoke of. One thing I want to point out, building E was not on the original site plan, if you will, the concept plan. But building D was slightly larger. Well, Jason and the folks at Fountainhead worked with staff, and we basically shifted the square footage from building D and wrapped it around building C. And so I'll show you some pictures, but there's seating and setup. There's offices along the window wall and then desks all along the inside wall for future training and staffing. Then if you focus to the right there's your sign. Again, this is the sign structure is about 95% complete, but then we got landscaping and electrical and things of that to finish. But we got the trees in recently, and we hope, we're trying to push to show that, we're not just asking for more time, we're really trying to gear up and move forward. So those are the two elements, the bottom left corner there and the bottom right corner. Almost everything in between there, with a few tweaks here and there, is done as far as we're concerned. Again, staff will have to, Brian and the crew here at Holly Hill will have to sign off on some of these things, but our signage is ready for inspection. We just got to call it in. We had a little hiccup with the sidewalk out there in Walker that we installed on the city right-of-way to tie the bus station platform that we put in there. One of the struggles we've had is, staff told us, Public Works said we need a sidewalk. I think, actually, Botrans said we needed a sidewalk, and because the city said we needed it, we figured that was permission. Well, Brian can tell you, we moved a little quick on that. But we did get the Public Works guy out there to look at it before we poured the concrete. We just got the cart before the horse. So, we've had some miscommunications with staff, and it's one thing I'm hoping I can help with. And Brian and Joe have both been patient and very helpful with everyone at the Fountainhead campus and trying to help us get it right, both process-wise and construction-wise. So, if you want to go to the next slide, that's buildings B and C, which you all are more familiar with. B is the one on the left. It's only a portion of it, but it's the north east corner. It's like a break room, casual. That's where you have birthday parties, casual workshops, things of that nature with staff. The lunch counter there, you can see that you can set up donuts or birthday cake or any kind of special events. And people just kind of go in there to do their own thing sometimes. And then there's where the core Synergy operation is, in the main building C, and you see the mezzanine up top there. I don't know, some of you, I don't know if you've been in there recently, so we welcome you to come take a tour anytime. But in case you hadn't been there, that's what the inside is looking like now. And this, forgive me, this is my photography, so it's probably not the best, but wanted to give you some idea. Next slide. This is building E, and it's kind of, I tried to give you the wraparound view to show you what to the left there are the offices that are along the window, but down the other opposite wall are all the cubicles. And then when you get down to the far end where the red desk is, you go all the way to that end, you turn the corner and that's what you see. So it's like an L-shaped structure that was added onto the building and added a little over 6,000 square feet to the main building, and then we reduced the building D by a few thousand square feet moving forward. These are the two bugaboos, if you will, whatever the right word is, the things we got to get done. Maybe not the slide to end on, but it's the honest slide. This is where we're focusing our efforts. That's building D today, and took the picture of the sign a couple days ago. Those palm trees went up recently. So we are doing our best to move this forward as quickly as possible, recognizing we got a little bit behind on our schedule to demonstrate we're not sitting around while we're here asking you for a little more time, obviously. We need to demonstrate commitment. And actually, as hard as it is to find labor during the pouring rain, these guys stuck it out and kept working all the way through the rain, even though it's, that building is not, it's about 95% dried in, but there's still some areas until we get that roofing on there. Last slide, which you can't even read, but it's basically a spreadsheet that shows you what's done as far as we're concerned, and what remains to be done. And when you look at elements in their entirety, we believe we're about 95% done with this project. And it's just right at the 11th hour, and so we're here to ask you to see if we can't get an extension, recognize the investment we've made, and that some of the COVID issues that everyone's had to deal with. We've also been talking with staff about some things we can do with the agreement to show, we recognize you guys are helping us out, we want to help you out. A couple of items that have been presented. One of them, I think, is an easy ask. It makes sense. Part of this is so we can close on parcel 3. We think it's critical to the future of the vision, if you will. And, but the concern is, well, if we give you this extension, you close on parcel 3, and then you turn around and flip it in this, this real estate economy that we have right now. So we've committed that, that money's earmarked for incentives, but if we flip it, someone else creates the jobs on that site, we can't benefit from the money from the sale of parcel 3. So we're willing to, if we don't live up to the idea that we want to develop it, we want to create the jobs, we give up that incentive money. It stays with the CRA, with the city. The other element we've been looking at is, and Jeanette might be able to talk to the process we're going through better than I can, but is the FHFC grant application process. And we're trying to get Volusia County to step up to the plate, hoping they can do that. But yeah, I'll just finish up real quick. But in the offset that they can't do that, we're trying to figure out how we can use some of the existing money that's in the bank, if you will, for incentives, might be used to help with that application. We haven't really pinned, there was a couple of hang-ups with how we make that work, but that we're working through with staff, but that's kind of the second element we're looking at, kind of the tit for tat. You're giving us something, we want to give you guys something too, and recognizing that you're working with us, we want to work with you in a way that benefits everybody. And again, I'll let Jeanette, she can speak more to that whole program than I can.
I know the workforce housing is something that is extremely important to all of us. It's, I know Jason's original dream was that this was a site where people would work and play and live. And for all of you, as long as I've known you, this has been a critical piece of the project. We have now submitted it 3 or 4 times. Last year, the project was not submitted because a project in New Smyrna Beach had been selected, and so Volusia County was not going to get a project last year. What the Florida Housing Finance Corporation has done is created a program for small and medium-sized counties. We're considered a medium county that allows a jurisdiction, a municipality or a county, to select sort of a preferred project. But to indicate their selection of that preferred project, they have to kick in a loan or a grant of an amount set by Florida Housing Finance Corporation. This year, for this project, it's $460,000. That's not something the city of Holly Hill has lying around. And we understand that, we've always understood that, so had not approached you all about that sort of support in the past. But this year, the county, which has ARPA funds and all kinds of other things, issued requests for proposals, for solicitations for projects that wish to get this support from the county. And so they had 13 interested parties, 6 actually applied, and Beneficial Communities, our development partner in this project, did submit an application. Kenny Boron, who some of you have met from Beneficial Communities, and I sat in virtually on the evaluation committee meeting, which is made up of county staff. And it sounded pretty good. All of the other projects, except ours, are senior projects. One of them is Phase 2 of the project that got funding last year in New Smyrna Beach. So ours is the only workforce housing project. And my talking point to the county when we have that opportunity, and could be yours as well, if you want to come support this, is that working families in this county are really on the ropes, and that every project, every affordable housing project is worthwhile. There's no unworthy one for seniors, for working families, for people with disabilities, but that we haven't had a new workforce housing project, and that Holly Hill is the ideal location for that. So we our next, the evaluation committee met. We don't know yet what or how they are speaking to the individual county council members, but at their meeting on the 17th, 17th, yeah, yours is the 24th. They're meeting on the 17th. They will make a presentation to the county council. We expect those of us who represent the various projects will be given an opportunity to answer questions or make presentations. Where a municipality supports the project, then, certainly be thrilled to have you all come there and say, we really want this project. If the county does select the Vistas at Fountainhead as their preferred project, then the county will extend a loan to beneficial communities, or a grant, but I'm sure it's probably going to be a loan, to beneficial communities that will indicate the county's, commitment to this project. And then we still have to go through the FHFC selection process. The applications are due August 26th. We have to go through that selection process, and we have to see what kind of number we get in the lottery. However, there are projects that have this designation as a local government area of opportunity have fewer competitors. They only will select, they will select a certain few. They have a better chance of being selected. And then among those, then it goes by lottery numbers and also scoring. Now, this project always scores well. Why wouldn't it? It's a perfect example of smart growth. But if the county selects the project, then we go through the FHFC process, and hopefully this year, that project is selected. If the county does not select the Vistas at Fountainhead, then the other option is for the city of Holly Hill to designate this their local government area of opportunity favorite project with a commitment of $460,000. What we've been talking about, and I think it probably needs a little more discussion, but there's sort of an agreement in principle that this is certainly worth exploring, is Jason has the city has about $500,000 roughly in the Fountainhead account for job incentives. How could we use that to come up with the $460,000 commitment to the Vistas at Fountainhead? Joe, and does that sound about like what we're talking about, Jason? Is that's sort of where this discussion is on the workforce housing? So we need to find the mechanism to do that. But Jason has said he's certainly willing to talk about this because we really want the affordable housing, the workforce housing there. Does that help? You ready for discussion?
Yeah, so let's, I'll try to say in 2 minutes, but it took 40 minutes to get to, which was a very good presentation, and I do appreciate that. So what the folks at Fountainhead are asking for is an extension to the option of purchasing parcel 3. They don't need an extension on parcel 1 because parcel 1 is attached to the completion of parcel 2, Exhibit C. So the option to purchase parcel 3 expires at the end of this month. So they're coming in and asking for that extension. So in exchange for that extension, what they're offering is two options. Not two options, but two items. One is that if they buy parcel 3, Fountainhead developers would build on parcel 3, and the revenues that are used to purchase that land that goes into the job incentive monies would go to Jason. If they sell parcel 3 to a third-party developer who builds and brings jobs, that money would come into the CRA and would not be eligible for them to use for job incentive monies. And that's their commitment to saying, we're going to get this done, part of our project, our employees, our initiative. The second part of that is, as Jeanette was saying, if the county does not provide the monies to the workforce housing project at Fountainhead, they will not have enough points to score as high as they could to earn a better spot in the lottery. So the monies that's currently sitting in the job incentive pool would be pledged for the workforce housing, that $462,000 that's needed. So what that does is that gives them a better standing, they'll score better points and get a better position on the lottery. If that is successful and they win the project, then that parcel 4 will be sold. The first $60,000 of that money would be put into a pot for job incentive. The other amount of money that that's sold for would go into reimbursement for the capital expenses. If the project is not awarded by Florida Housing Finance Corp., the money would go back into the jobs incentive pool for them to use for the jobs that they have, but then the workforce housing project doesn't go through. So that's kind of in a nutshell, I think, what the ask is for tonight. But in addition to this part of the work session, we've also asked them to update Exhibit C, because Exhibit C over the years has had some administrative changes that were approved either through Tom Horowski or Brian Walker when they came in. But cumulatively, we considered them for the most part minor amendments, but cumulatively, I think the commission needs to be aware of what those changes are. In addition to that, and that's Exhibit C, Phase 1, Parcel 2, Exhibit C. So in addition to that, we have to update the incentive agreement, because the incentive agreement is reflective of the work that's done on Exhibit C. So Patrick has provided us with
You want to flip to it?
Yeah, I'll get to it. Patrick has provided us with an update of what Exhibit C
Other way.
is, and Brian has looked at it, and Scott and I have looked at the agreement. We've made some recommended changes. We're not quite sure where that is at this moment, but we'll take our comments, Scott and I, we'll take our comments and whatever comments the commission has, as well as Brian's comments on the Exhibit C, and hopefully walk out of here with some direction that we should be able to come back by the August 24th meeting with final documents for approval.
Thank you,
Does that
Joe.
kind of sum it up?
Yeah, I think the details and how we manage that loan, if you will, however we're going to manage the money going to the housing project is something we've got to still
Yeah.
work through a little bit.
You know, there are some outlying questions with that, because that would be a loan, that it would be a loan from the city CRA to the project, that based on what I know from the previous project that we were supporting last year, it's a 30-year loan, but it can be paid down in 22 years at a 4% interest rate. Now, if those conditions are changed, I don't know. I don't know at this time. But if it is a loan, I think that until the CRA terminates in 2026 for the Fountainhead project, any repayment on that loan should go back to Fountainhead. But anything after 2026 would just come back to the CRA if the CRA is extended. Now, and that's the game plan, is that we would extend the CRA timeframe. So there are some details that need to be worked out as far as that's concerned. We have to make sure that we can legally do all this and what the terms and conditions are. But that's the premise of what the conditions are for extending the purchase option.
And I think, one thing I just want to make sure I mention is we believe, based on just moving Synergy to the current location, we've already qualified for about $225,000 in job incentive money. So that by itself creates a little concerns with this approach, to make sure it's handled correctly, because of a couple things. One is the timing for this housing grant. It's going to take some time before the property is even closed on. So once we finish our Phase 1, we're supposed to be getting that $225,000. You know, we got to provide the paperwork, demonstrate, you know, what I'm telling you is true, but that's where we believe we're at. And if the money's not there, we're giving up $225,000 for we don't know how long. And then the other concern is, a lot of this is premised on the idea that we may not meet the total job objectives. But it's a pretty big ask to say to give up the entire $462,000, which I guess is really what we'd be doing. I know it goes into the housing project when that money comes back at $60,000 per acre, but it was over here. That's supposed to happen anyway without this money, in theory anyway. I mean, we need the money for this to happen. So this is a bigger piece of the pie. We understand that. We just like to make sure we're not losing too much of the job incentive money that we believe, our goal is to still earn it. Obviously, it's a little more difficult now at this stage in the game, but
If you could pause real quick, Vice Mayor Penny.
How many acres is the parcel in question?
Parcel 3?
4?
Parcel 4.
Parcel 4 is
Five.
5.4-ish.
Yeah, 5.5.
Yeah.
It's about 330,000, I think, in job incentives, is that right?
So basically, I understand what you're saying about losing potential revenue. But if the project doesn't happen, you don't get that revenue anyways.
The
So-
new revenue.
The new revenue. So if the project happens, you have potentially $330,000 to come back into the project that is not available if this affordable housing project does not happen.
Well, yes, I mean, the property could still sell, and so the
It's actually more
60,000.
than that, because the sale price is more than 60,000, so the first 60,000,
60,000 from the city and then another 100,000 from the developer.
well, the first 60 goes into the employee incentive,
Right?
and anything over 60 goes into the capital reimbursement,
Right.
which is where the
That's-
TIF money's supposed to go.
That's the big, I guess, you know,
That's the-
reward for
Right,
parcel 4.
that's the big money is that the developers has agreed, I understand, to pay you guys more than 60,000 per acre.
There's already a contract
There's
on that
already-
land.
And what's that value? What's the agreed purchase
Jason,
price?
I don't remember.
the value of the contract with
Parcel 4.
beneficial?
I was
I don't know the exact dollar amount, but it's somewhere around 1.2 or 3, I don't know.
I think that's pretty close. I was
I
going to say
don't, I don't have
1.2.
that.
I think 1.2 is pretty close.
Okay, so basically, I'm just crunching numbers in my head, because these guys know I crunch numbers in my head, is that if you give up a little bit, you have the potential to get back 1.2.
They'd be giving up 462 to get about 350 back in that fund alone that they may not get if the project doesn't get awarded.
Right, but if they don't sell it for more than the 60,000 per acre, then they don't get that capital
They wouldn't get
reinvestment
it.
money either.
But they'll also get back monies that they buy parcel 1 and parcel 3. So when they
Right.
buy that, that'll go into the jobs money as well. And then my bigger concern is having too much money in the jobs incentive pool that they can't get to, and then what happens at the end if it's not spent. So there's a lot of floating what ifs.
I mean, that I understand.
Yeah,
And,
a lot of
but
floating
what
ifs.
I guess we're not, you know, we want this project to happen for all the reasons you just said, and workforce housing
Right.
in that neighborhood, and for synergy, and for the businesses we want to put there, makes sense.
So
But-
where are we at with jobs as opposed to beginning of the project and current jobs there now?
I think we've lost a couple from when they were first in there. I think Jason spoke to that a little bit. I don't know if you want to, is there anything more to add to that?
No, I know there's-
I don't know the numbers, but it,
I think the last number I got from Mike was about 63.
We're,
80.
hey,
Go ahead. You're on. You're on,
80,
Jason.
right?
Yeah.
That's, I think the last count was 80, and then we just opened up 15 positions.
So we're
Mayor,
getting back to square one, and we want to go from there, obviously. So
so they currently have 80 employees, I thought they were bringing over like 125 employees a
Well,
few
they did,
years
but the
ago.
economy, downturn in the economy and the conditions.
So, then, forgive me, I got notes scattered all over the place. The 500,000 that's in the job incentives account, what are they eligible for right now out of that? Because it's only 80 employees, that meets,
Well, if you just
Nothing that I
round,
recall.
you just round off the numbers, and I've been using 3,000 just as a ballpark. If it were 3,000 per employee and they have 80 employees, you'd be at $240,000,
okay,
roughly.
okay.
And they think they're at 225 qualified already.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we don't.
That's close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's in that ballpark.
And then but that 550,000 that's in there now, and the incentive money, when they purchase parcel 1 and 3, that's going to continue to go up, correct?
It'll go up by the value of 60,000 per acre for that. One is 7 acres and the other, I forgot what the acreage is. So yeah, that money will go into the jobs incentive money as well. Now, the other thing we should talk about is, in the current contract, there's this credit of about $190,000 that they could use to purchase parcel 1 that would come off the jobs incentive. So in other words, instead of paying them $190,000 and then they pay us
Give it
back for
back.
the land, it would just stay there and it would be a credit toward that purchase. The challenge that we have is, if we go forward with committing the $462,000, financially, and Stella's here, we have to encumber that money. So that means I can't use it for something else. It is encumbered and set aside for the purpose of the affordable housing project. Now, we'll know by October-ish if it's approved. There's still a lot of what-ifs. It's what if the county does fund it? What if the county doesn't fund it? What if the CRA money funds it? What if it's approved? What if it's not approved? So there's a lot of what-ifs that happen.
The loan,
If you could come to the microphone, Jeanette. Thank you.
the loan is not extended until you have the CO for the apartment complex, so.
So that money's gonna sit there tied up for
That's going to
For
sit
a
there, I mean, frankly.
several years.
at least
Yeah.
probably two-plus years.
By the time,
Right.
FHFC calls it an invitation for credit underwriting, they call them in, that takes a while. It'll probably, even though they're going early this year, it'll probably be the end of the year before we even, if we're successful with the county or with the city of Holly Hill and being named the preferred project, it'll still be probably the end of the year before we know from FHFC.
And Jeanette, there's 6 projects in Volusia?
Yes, who are looking for the money.
And so, that doesn't mean
There's
one of
more.
those, that doesn't mean one of those 6 will be awarded in Volusia. That just means there's 6 Volusia lottery balls available.
No, what it means, there are, I don't know, there are probably 20.
Around the
Volusia
state?
projects.
Oh, Volusia, okay.
Yes, 6 of them
From
have asked for
east
the
to-
county support.
6
Oh, I
of them
see.
have come to ask to be selected as the preferred project. So we are one of those 6.
So Volusia will only get 1 preferred project?
Yes, each jurisdiction can only name one. You can only name one.
Okay.
You know, Daytona Beach can only name one. I had a question about, somebody asked me about whether we could work out something, some of you all may have read about the mixed-use project, Clyde Morris Landings, where the developer of a huge commercial market rate apartment complex is getting $900,000 from Daytona Beach and $900,000 from the county in basically tax credits and other consideration, because they're promising out of their 25, it's a 25-acre apartment complex, they're promising to set aside 216 apartments for 15 years as affordable apartments. Unfortunately, the size of this project doesn't anywhere near lend itself to that kind of an arrangement, and the fact that you have a project that is all affordable apartments. I mean, the commitment is for 30 years, 100% of these apartments will be those that are offered at not one penny more than 30% of a household's income. So that's a long commitment, but it means that Beneficial Communities is never going to be collecting market rate rents. And that's why these tax incentives make it worthwhile for them. They will, if they're selected, they will be given $16 million in tax credits, which they will then immediately sell to a financial institution. And that's most of the equity in that project.
Okay. Commissioner Curry, you had a question?
Yes. Oh, my goodness. I would like to hear from Stella.
Stella, could you come
what
up?
kind of an impact would a $460 loan for 2 to 3 years be on the city physically?
460,000.
Yes, what did I say?
Dollar.
Oh, 460,000.
Loan you there.
I
If it was
can-
460, we could get out of here now. I'm sure we could all come
But
up
it's
with
coming out
that.
of that special account. It's
Yeah.
not,
It's not coming out of the city.
It's already
City
So-
tied up.
money
Okay,
that
so
they
it's the
paid
money
in.
that's already there.
Yes.
It's in the
Yeah.
jobs incentive money,
money they already paid. in.
550,000.
the money that they
in
used to
account.
purchase parcel one. Parcel two.
Is there no other monies in the CRA fund that have not been earmarked? Team up with?
Well, we've pretty much committed to
Underground.
the overhead to underground project, and we have debt on that.
It's all earmarked.
So, take
Yeah.
The one thing, I mean, the city manager and vice mayor pretty much covered it, but the one thing I would say that right now, anyway, the interest rate return that you would get for this loan
Much greater
is
than
much
the bank.
better than you would get externally. My concern would be the CRA running out and somehow not extending the CRA, and then the city, if they've agreed to this loan, would probably have to fund it from other means, which is not impossible, but it would just, be something that had to be considered.
Okay, thank you.
Wait, Stella, wait 1 second, Stella. You said so the CRA's going to time out in 2026. Let's say it doesn't get reapproved. You said we would have to fund that loan from somewhere else. Why would we have to fund that loan from somewhere else if we already had the money there and used that as the loan?
Because those dollars came from the CRA fund, and if you're having to totally close your CRA fund, you are going to have to.
Pay to the other
That's
entities?
a commitment that's going on, more years to pay back.
So we wouldn't have access to those funds?
It's one of those unknowns. It's one of those what-if unknowns that
If it doesn't continue,
if we don't extend the CRA, is the taxing authorities going to say, well, you haven't spent the money, you have to give it back to the taxing authorities? Or are we going to be able to say, well, we've encumbered it for this purpose, and it's been in our plan, you should allow us to continue to do it? And then the next question will be, well, where does the proceeds go when it's paid back?
So the question is where do the proceeds start coming back in 2027? Because they may not come directly to us, they may go to the other taxing authorities.
Unknown,
that
that's
are
right.
that are not getting it now.
Right.
Right now, hopefully we'll get the CRA extended, and it'll come back into the,
but that's hopefully.
that's the number one goal for me the next couple of years, is get that CRA extended.
Well, if you just,
Commissioner Danio has been waiting,
I just
sorry.
wanted to go back on that. If you had the other means, then you're comparing the interest rates of today versus 4 years from now.
Versus
Wouldn't that be a consideration?
4 years ago or
You said
4 years from
now.
Well, it would be impossible to know what they're going to be 4
Right,
years from
but you're
now.
kind of rolling dice on the interest rates.
Correct. Correct.
So we're rolling the dice on a couple different,
well, you're getting less than 1% now
Way less.
You're going to list them.
on your investment.
No, I understand that. Now, I'm just saying.
Right.
Who knows what's going to happen to these.
Well, it's $332,000 in interest.
Are there any other questions for Stella?
no.
Thank you very much.
So I think this discussion kind of highlights what our concerns are. We want to participate for obvious reasons, but the idea that we won't be able to collect on the 200-plus thousands that we already, that's part of the incentives. You plan on getting them, and you make plans for that money. It's part of the whole redevelopment and business expansion for the property. So we not only would be essentially forfeiting $462,000 if we created the jobs that would, we'd also be deferring payment of the 225,000 because there wouldn't be enough money until we were able to close on the parcels. And, so I think the short version of what I'm trying to say is I think we can have a more creative way where there's at least a potential for Fountainhead to, if they have the jobs, to recoup the money, the incentives. If they don't have the jobs, then they don't recoup the money. I mean,
Well, let me just zoom us in really quickly. So as we talk about the financial aspect of how, if this loan, if the county doesn't step up, and if, let's go back to the extension, and let's hash that part out first. Let's get that done, and then we can go back to that. You have a question?
I was under the impression that the extension was contingent upon these other two items, that the applicant was going to make some considerations for the extensions.
That's a good point.
And
But
so because if the extension isn't granted and the land isn't purchased, then everything else is a moot point.
Yeah.
Nothing else happens. So I was under the impression that there's three questions that have to all be yes
yeah.
to make the extension happen.
But let me ask, on the extension, how long is the extension exactly to purchase parcel 3?
6 months.
we're currently
6
asking at
months.
the end of February.
Okay, 6 months. And as I understand, you don't think that it's going to take 6 months?
Not to complete the work, but like I said, there's final inspections and there's closings. The deadline is attached to when we close on parcel 1 and parcel 3. That's the deadline. So it's really getting to that closing on parcel 3 is what that deadline is ultimately about.
I just want to make sure that we're not, if we say yes to this, we're not putting ourselves in a position to come back and do another 6 months extension, another 6 months
I
extension.
got a feeling if we're not done, we're not going to get a warm welcome. In February.
6 months and like a minute, maybe.
The other thing that's fire is,
That's about all.
correct me if I'm wrong, Joe, but this is the last option for the workforce housing, too.
That's correct. This
Yeah.
is the last
This is the
year.
last year that they can apply without an extension of that.
Yeah. Okay, so 6 months.
Yeah.
I would just like to hear from Mr. Simpson, the legality part of this.
Well, first, I think it's important I think it's been explained to you pretty well where we stand right now, As you know, the agreement was set up for performance-based. And so as they performed, things became available. And they don't lose the option to buy parcel 1. They always have that ability. But we said to buy parcel 2.
Three.
Three, I'm sorry, parcel 3. You have to buy parcel 1 and 3 within 4 years of buying 2, which was the first one. But we didn't put a restriction on 1. So what happens if you don't do anything is they lose the option to buy for $60,000 per acre. Doesn't mean that you can't sell it to them.
Right.
It's just they don't have that option anymore.
That's just for 3, though.
Well, it's 3, but it's also, they do have an option to buy the workforce housing parcel if the workforce housing doesn't go forward, but they can't use it for workforce housing. But they have that option to buy to further expand as well. If, from a pure legal standpoint, yes, we can make all the changes we've talked about. The issue is, one, in looking at how this money is paid, and one thing that wasn't considered when we did it, because we didn't think there would be money left over, and one thing we're starting to think about, is there going to be money left over, is, and this was mentioned, what happens if the CRA ends in 2026? And we have money sitting there. And their contract goes to 2026, and we don't have time then to spend the money they don't get. And it will most likely be the jobs money, because they have the construction costs to absorb the vast majority of or probably all the revenue that could go into the construction costs, the capital reimbursement. It's the incentive, the new job incentive is where there could be money that's not expended. And we don't want to be in a position of having to give that back to the other taxing agencies, because, and that's something Joe said we're still looking into, but basically each year, if you don't have your money, when you get to the end of the year, your money either has to be spent, earmarked, or given back. Well, if we don't have a CRA, I think there's a pretty good argument, we can't keep it, we got to give it back. So one of the things Joe and I have talked a little bit about is, we need a year to make sure that if they aren't using, if we know they're not going to use up that money, we need to be able to free up that money, unencumber that money a year in advance, so this city can then turn around and budget that money to spend somewhere else in the CRA. So that's something I think Joe and I have talked about. And I think that will be, if it's going to be any money, it will be the workforce, or the
Jobs money.
the job money.
And we talked about that at our meeting, that because you have to be on the job at least a year in order to get the incentive, so it makes sense.
And the way the agreement ends, it says any money received by June 30th, 2026 is available for the Fountainhead. Well, the way the TIF money works, they do the valuation on January 1st for 2026. That money will not be paid until January 1st, 2027. So all of 2026 is really off the table, because that money's not going to be available, paid to us by June of 2026. So we're really talking about what is the money that's going to be based on the assessed value of January 1st, 2025, that get paid, that is paid in November at the earliest of 2025. But per state law, they don't transfer it to us until January 2026, is usually when the TIF money comes from the county to, and the other taxing districts to us. So I think we need to think about making sure that if there's money that's not going to be spent, that we need to have the ability to have a year to budget and spend it. I don't know when our CRA ends. I think it ends in 2026.
Yeah, it does. I don't know the month.
But I'm not sure the month it ends. So that's one thing to think about. And as far as the other ones, all the other changes that they're talking about, I'm fine with. If that's the direction you want to go. If you want to give them more time, and there's multiple things that they need time on, and there's multiple trigger events through these things, because right now they're not entitled to any of the money. So if the money goes, depending on when they finish phase one, that's when they get the jobs incentive money per the agreement. But if we need to pledge the money before they become the owner of entitled to the money, then it's really us doing it, because it's our CRA funds until they're actually entitled to be paid those funds. But we can set it aside, the money as a loan. If it's a loan, the issue is, okay, at some point in time, if this CRA is going to end, and if that loan is still an asset, what are we going to do with it? That could be way, way, way down the road, but right now it's not that far down the road. Or we can do it as a grant, and without the money coming back.
Is it, I'm sorry, does the money have to be pledged, or can the land, a mortgage and land work as the pledge?
It's got to be cash.
It's got to be cash.
Loan or grant.
Okay.
And then I think Joe and Brian have worked adequately trying to protect the city. When they buy one, and we had this discussion a couple years ago, once they buy one, they got to buy two, and that opens them up to buy others. And then the potential for flipping was always a concern. We wanted it to be developed. We didn't want to just turn around and flip it for them to profit. They've addressed that issue. So I think the issues are all addressed. There's some details that need to be worked out, but once the general direction is given by this commission that this is the direction you want to go, I think we can address the details.
Yeah.
So
One
if,
sec, Vice Mayor.
oh, I'm sorry.
He was
I was just trying to get, so we're not here for 3 hours talking about stuff that doesn't really matter. But it seems like the flipping issue is absolved, off the table, right? It's no harm, no foul. It seems to me that a 6-month extension is not unreasonable in a development of this size. I hope that the commission agrees with me. The sticking point that I see that we are not going to solve if we sat here for another 8 hours, is the loan and the proceeds of that loan, who gets the proceeds of that loan. And at the end of the day, we have to have staff and the applicant have to work that out over the next couple weeks. And then Joe will meet with us individually, and we will vote on that, I would imagine simultaneously at one time on the 24th.
You're not voting on it individually at private meetings, like, sure.
No, on the 24th. I know we have two meetings in August, so it's on the second meeting in August. But
I'm confident, we've
I'm-
been floating some creative solutions. I'm confident we can come up with
right,
something.
and so I think
It still allows everybody to do what they want.
to wrap it up is that we'll be voting on some details that may or may not even matter. If the county approves it, then everything, all these details we're worrying about doesn't matter. We are going to know, if the county doesn't approve it and we pledge our money, we are going to know by October, November, December at the latest, whether we got the lottery ball or not. And they have an extension of 6 months, which puts us into January, February. So a lot of this might not even happen. And so I'm just kind of the opinion that the only thing that I need to get worked out is going to work out between staff and the applicant of those loan proceeds. Everything else, to me personally, seems agreeable.
And there's kind of like the two big things. The loan proceeds and the extension.
Right.
The extension runs independently of the loan proceeds. Those are two different topics. So.
But do we vote, so I'm assuming that we would vote on the loan proceeds before we voted on the extension. Can one be contingent upon the other?
No. I don't think so.
I don't see how,
And the
because,
reason is the extension allows them to go forward and have more time to finish, to buy parcel 1 than buy parcel 3.
Right, but,
If we don't give that extension, then at the end of the month, they will not exercise their option to buy parcel 3, then all the rolling options are over.
and I get that, but let's just say we vote on the extension. First item on the agenda, all in favor? Aye, 5-0. And the applicant says, I withdraw my other proposal.
It will come to you as one change.
Okay, that was my question.
Oh, okay, yeah, no, it's going to be one document.
Okay,
One item.
It's an all
Okay.
or nothing proposition.
Right.
And,
Yeah, we gotta,
trust me, I'm a developer, no.
so in other words, it's got to be both approved? Is that what you're saying, or the,
We're gonna present you a
All one.
document that says
Oh,
this
that's
is
it?
the proposed change.
It's a package.
One whole
Package,
amendment.
Here it is.
Right.
And, now, that doesn't mean we get to the meeting, you can't say, well, let's modify this some.
Right.
We need to tweak this, you can do that. But it won't be voting on, the intent is not to vote on individual changes. The intent is to vote on a document.
Commissioner Curry, you had something?
so, yeah, Joe, is there another project that is going through the same thing, the, senior housing that was at Third and Ridgewood?
The senior housing at Third and Ridgewood is one of the other applications that went to the county for their support and is also in that pool for Florida Housing Finance Corp. credits, tax credits.
Okay, so we have two projects that are looking for support, or just this project?
The two projects are looking for county support.
Okay.
So the...
In order to accomplish that for these guys, they need the loan of $420,000.
Right.
What about the other project?
No, if the county gives them the approval, they
Or
don't.
460, I'm sorry.
They don't need our money if the county approves them.
Okay.
Right.
So,
The other project has nothing to do with this pool of money or this
Okay.
approval process. There's-
this is attaching to us because we're here asking you for an extension.
so what happens if we give the $460,000 loan? Are we going to then, on top of that, owe them the job incentives money? Because that's what this is coming out of.
It's whatever the money's in the pool. So if they commit the $462,000 to the housing project and it is approved, that money is now encumbered, so they don't get that for the jobs incentives. What they do get is new jobs incentive money from selling that land to the affordable housing project, and that'll come back at about $330,000. But in addition to that, they'll get a pot of money that can be used immediately for reimbursement of capital expenses if that affordable housing property is sold. So that's
And
the-
they will also get the 60,000 an acre for.
from the sale of
parcel
1 and 3.
And 3.
Right.
Yeah. So
Right.
between the parcels
There's-
1, 3, and 4, there'll be so much money in that jobs incentive pool that I don't know if they'd have enough jobs to get it all back.
Right.
How many acres are in 1, and 3?
Let's just say there's roughly 13 acres remaining in all the other properties.
13 acres.
3 is 2.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, 16 acres.
16?
16 times 60.
So 16 acres times
Just
60,000.
one of the companies we've been looking at acquiring alone has 100 employees. So I don't see any issue with being able to utilize those job incentive dollars. It's not just the organic growth from the Synergy business,
Right.
but other compatible companies that we're evaluating. So just throwing that out there, that I feel quite confident that, and we'll know a year obviously in advance, but the job incentive money, it's there so we can create jobs. And that's what we intend to do.
Yeah, so those jobs, Jason, let's just say you acquire a company and you bring in 100 jobs. Those 100 jobs will have to wait that 1 year to qualify for the incentive money. So by that time, we will have sold parcel 1, parcel 3, and parcel 4.
So 1 and 3, you'll have 960,000 additional revenue into that account that has 550,000 now. Then you'll have 60,000 from the first acre of parcel 4, which is 1,020,000 plus the 550 that's in there. You have 225,000 already. So
We don't
you're,
have it already. I mean, but-
well,
We got-
possibly.
It's a credit.
The trigger is finishing phase 1, but we got to do that in order to.
So just the million, that's roughly about 340 jobs, additional jobs from this point, not counting that 550,000. So, and trust me, we want you guys to get there to the most amount of jobs, but I think it's important that you guys have to look at, you have to get that affordable housing done, I believe, from your business standpoint. We want that to get done. So I don't think it's too much to ask from the city standpoint to be able to use that money there. So, and I know what you're saying, Vice Mayor, of let's let them work that out, and I agree with that, but I think also that this commission needs to make clear what our expectations are, where we're at. Obviously, things will change. They'll come up with ideas. If they're better than this, that's great. But looking at all of this, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with moving forward in that respect. So,
No, and I agree wholeheartedly with you. And in full disclosure, I went to a meeting at Fountainhead. You weren't available
Yeah.
that day, and I went. And we discussed expanding the timeframe. And my comment, whether it was right, wrong, or indifferent, was that, if you come to the commission, in my opinion, and asking for something, we're going to ask for a pound of flesh. And so this is the pound of flesh, is that they've offered to make sure that if it's flipped, they don't receive any incentives. They've offered, it's in everyone's best interest if this affordable housing project moves forward. It's a home run. It completes Jason's vision for the project. But then it comes down to, and then they said, well, we'll if the county doesn't give us some money, we'll take that money and pledge it in some form or other, and there talks about a grant and a loan, and then what happens to the money when the CRA, all the things we're talking about now. And so the devil's kind of in the details there. And I truly believe that it could be a win-win if the applicant pledges that money and the affordable housing is successful. To Mr. Forte's point, they recoup that money because there's not only the 60,000 in jobs money, there's whatever they sell it to the developer over and above to capital improvements, and they've already spent $2 million more than they thought to, so they will never spend enough, we'll never create enough capital incentive to pay them back for what they've got invested. So, but on the other side, if the county, they swing and miss at the county,
Bless you.
and we don't have the money to pledge it, so the only way we can pledge it is to pledge their credits at their direction, so we pledge their credits, then they're successful, then it's a win-win, but to their point,
Right.
their best position is if the county funds it,
Right.
then they get all the credits.
Right.
But they're willing to give up, they see the greater good is that we'll give up a few donuts to get the rest of the dozen over here.
So here's the thing, we're going to know before
Yeah,
our
before our
24th meeting if the county funds them or not.
Right. So it may be a lot easier.
It might,
24th meeting or?
yeah, it might be a moot, the whole
And I-
thing might be a moot point.
And I don't think, again, in principle, you're not getting an argument from us. I just think, short version, the terminology we've been going back and forth with, we're not 100% happy with. I think we can do a better job that still gets you what you want, but it doesn't sacrifice as much of our opportunity should we create the jobs and that exceed what incentive money would otherwise be in there. So we've been talking about it, and I do think we can come up with something. So I understand where you're at, you know, you're telling me the loan is part of the deal, but the terms of the loan is something we gotta figure out, I think, still. That's all I'm saying. I think we can be a little more creative than the way it's
That
currently.
money's the tail end money, the last dollars.
I'm sorry?
I think that's gonna be the last dollars because once you go forward and you buy the parcel 1 and 3, that's gonna put a significant more amount of money back into the job incentives. So that will then be able to fund the jobs you have now.
And then
So
some.
that 400 that you're taking out, 460 you're taking out,
Gets replaced instantly.
it's replaced instantly.
That's
and
what I'm
that
saying.
won't really come into play
Right.
until you use up the money that's replenished it. So that's what I'm saying, it's really the last 460 you're talking about.
Yes.
Right.
But I think we'd like an opportunity to get as much of that as we can if we create the jobs. And I think we can put timing factors on it as well.
And I think you're gonna get it
So that you still have an
pretty
opportunity
quick.
to
I think
use
still
what
you're
we've
gonna
done.
get it quickly because you're gonna have to buy 1 and 3 within the next 6 months.
Yeah.
So there's that money you're gonna put in there. So whether that money's there or that money plus 460 is there,
Plenty.
you're not gonna use it all. You don't have.
Plus, you got a $190,000 credit towards that purchase of
Yeah.
parcel 1, right?
Well,
Maybe.
it's sort of like a credit. The money stays in the jobs.
Okay.
Right.
says-
It just
okay,
comes off
so-
the purchase.
So I'm squared away on this. Sorry. We would be pledging $160,000 out of the job incentive money of $550,000. No,
460,000.
what did I say?
160.
Man, numbers tonight. Okay, $460,000 out of the $550,000 is what we would pledge. We'll know by the end of August if the county is in fact going to support. If the county doesn't support, then that all goes away anyway.
If the county does
Oh,
support.
if the county does support.
it,
If
then
they,
we don't have to
the
worry
county
about
may
Oh,
give them
that's what
the
I meant, I'm
460.
sorry. If the county does support it, then it's a wash, it doesn't matter.
So then if they do purchase parcels 1 and 3, you know, parcel 1 being 5¼ acres, parcel 3 being, I think,
2.5,
so
roughly.
let's just say 3, so it's a total of 8 acres. That's 480,000 that will come into the jobs incentive money that they can get. So if you divide 480 by 3,
So they're not lacking any of the money, I
160, yeah.
guess.
Yeah, 160, right?
that would cover
Really
160
a discussion
employees.
that's good. When we talk about us pledging or whatever, once they get the phase 1 done, they're entitled at that point, based on current numbers, somewhere between 250 and 240, somewhere, or 225 and 240, is what they're entitled to based on the agreement we entered into. The discussion is, should we encumber that money if the county does not pledge? And it's really for them to agree to, not for us to agree to. Instead of giving you that 225 or whatever you're entitled to, we're going to take that money, pledge 460 of the 550 to, if the county doesn't support it, to support that project. But within 6 months, you're gonna put another 400 and something thousand back in there, and there's gonna be 90 there anyway. So it's not getting that 225 that you're entitled to right away. That's really the only thing we're talking about.
Well, and then the potential for back end. I mean,
you're
we're
not gonna
optimistic.
have that many employees there.
Well,
Well, I mean, history shows you're going the wrong way. So,
Well,
let's,
COVID
we just need
is-
to be realistic on how many
COVID is a
employees you're
part
going to
of
get
that.
there.
COVID is
The
a part of that.
likelihood- Yeah, it's, the likelihood.
You gotta have
of growing that
330 jobs.
much, You got a long way to go to use up all of it, especially if the workforce housing project gets sold, because there goes another however many dollars. But really, the big benefit then is you're going to, the contract price is 1.6 million. So you're looking at probably 1.3 million of recoupment of capital expenditures you already have, right, instantaneously, as soon as that sells. So there's going to be a lot of cash coming back in. And then maybe with that, you can expand to tap into the rest of the jobs money over there. But if we do the loan, the money, when they pay it back, is going to go back into the jobs money.
yeah, but I mean, those loan payments won't start for at least 2 years, and then we're 2 years away from the expiration. So that's not a whole lot of money.
Mr. Mayor, I don't have as much of a heartache or heartburn about the $460,000 loan or support, whatever it is, being used out of the jobs incentive money. I don't really have a whole lot of heartburn about that. The heartburn comes in for the extension. Now, I don't mind being a little lenient for a very short time, but let's not blame all this on COVID.
Oh, no.
COVID started last March, and everything that's gone on has not, or is not to be blamed on COVID. I understand COVID impacts employees and so on and so forth, but that sign at LPGA and Center has been in that condition since before school was let out, because I drove it every day, picking up and taking my grandson to school. It sat that way. The project has stalled many times because whoever on the staff from Synergy/Fountainhead was not really helpful to my city manager. There was a lot that
communication.
went on,
Yep.
and now you're telling me also in your comments that you're blaming issues about permitting on our city employees?
No, I just think it took a long time to get it started with the developers agreement and getting that ironed out after the property was purchased. That's my understanding. So
Okay.
they weren't able to hit the ground running.
So I do have
That's my-
heartburn about this project as a whole because of the fact so many deadlines have been missed. I'm sort of beyond, do us a favor, see us through this, because we have stood dedicated to this project for several years now. And I've heard all the complaints this whole time. I have not said anything up to this point, but my tipping hat is kind of done. So I don't mind giving them 6 months. I will not give them a day over that. And I do not mind loaning the money, the $460,000, out of the job incentives money. I don't have a problem with that. I can tell you, if you come back here at 6 months and 1 day, you're going to get a no vote from this commissioner. Because this project is just dragging on, dragging on, dragging on. And the greatest fault is not laid upon the city.
No, no.
So that's all I have to say.
I would agree with that.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. Yeah, I think I heard the same thing in the presentation that rubbed me the wrong way when you were talking about.
Yeah, I apologize.
Excuse me one
I
second.
wrote it down.
Excuse me one second.
Yeah,
To talk about part of the reason why we're so far behind is permitting from our staff. And I have to say that I know how much the staff has put into this, and I've been in a lot of those meetings, and so I didn't take kindly to that
apologize.
as well. So, and I think that's what kind of set off the commissioner. But I do adversely, I do understand a lot of the hiccups. I mean, we are in a world pandemic, and many things are set back, and I don't think everything can be blamed on that. But things happen in huge projects. We can't always predict the future, and I do believe what you have done it looks amazing. It looks great, and I'm proud of that project to be there. It's a huge improvement, obviously, from what it was, and it may not be everything that we hoped and dreamed for. I think all of us are in that respect. But I do still believe that it has a lot of life, and, we're partners in this. We are, from the very beginning. And this is sometimes how partnerships go, and I think we're getting to the end here. We're getting to the part to where this can really blossom here at the end. So I just wanted to bring it back to that, but I know why the commissioner took offense to that as well, because I did, and I wanted to make sure that our staff is stuck up for as well.
And
So
your staff has been great since I've been here. I was just referring to, history, I was told that just getting the initial site plan off the ground was a lot of back and forth, so they weren't able to hit the ground running. I don't know that anyone was at fault other than it took a while.
okay,
That's all.
understood. All right. So with that, I think that we have a good understanding of where these negotiations need to take place. Are there any other questions or maybe comments from the commission?
I just want to throw in my 2 cents as far as, we're at 6 months and we're pretty much dead on that. So, I mean, we put their feet to the fire, so it's time to get moving here. Because it has been a long 5 years. So, other than that, you came in late, so, but you're in it now, so.
You heard me at the beginning. I got a feeling this is it. We come back in February, you're going to say, hope you're done.
It's hard right now being in business to
Yeah.
do good in the pandemic. I've been there and seen it all the time, every single day. We only asked for a 180-day extension. Nowadays, that goes by before you can thank you. And
Oh, yeah.
so you're gonna have to rush to get through the 180 days.
Well, we're going, I don't know about rush, but we got to stay on it, that's for sure.
But it goes by quickly.
Oh, yeah.
The other,
Everything takes time. It takes like weeks to do this little project, this little project. And then it's hard to get employees, almost impossible.
I'm cold.
So I was totally in agreement of getting.
That's what you wanted, the fans off.
Appreciate that.
Yep. Mr. Forte?
the other thing we didn't talk about tonight, and I don't know how critical it is, but there's the amendment to Exhibit C, which is up on the slide, which reflects the administrative changes that we're going to be bringing back to you on the 24th as well. Now, one is not contingent upon the other. These are 2 standalone, separate matters, so
I can talk about a couple of the high-level changes unless you want Brian to do it. He's got more history than I
yeah,
do.
Brian can probably give the quick rundown on what the changes are. And these are primarily administrative changes that we made, considering them small-scale amendments, which will be required to amend the PUD, but it's also going to be required to update the incentive plan to reflect the changes in Exhibit C, because the Exhibit C is specifically called out in the incentive agreement. So we just want to bring this to your attention so that when it comes to you on August 24th, you're not looking at us going, well, why is this here?
Great, thank you. Mr. Walker?
Sure, I can update you on the differences between the Exhibit C that was part of the original development agreement and the Exhibit C that has been updated. We don't have the original Exhibit C up, but if you did, you would see that there is an updated Building E that wraps around the buildings B and C, and that was not on the original exhibit. So that is new. Building D is also reduced in size. Originally, it was 11,000 square feet, and now it is 4,560 square feet. There is the retention pond on the north, which is larger. On the original Exhibit C, it was smaller. And because it is larger, there is reduced parking on the north side. However, there is increased parking on the south side. Part of that does go on to, that area there is actually parcel 1.
Brian, is the retention pond a St. John's issue? Is that why it's larger?
Right.
Okay.
There's also next to, let me just grab, excuse me, 1 minute. So next to exhibit, actually Building D, there was a pavilion, and now there is a plaza that is going to be there. The original Exhibit C had 28,000 square feet of building. The updated Exhibit C has 29,361 square feet of building, so they are actually proposing to give more building than what was originally provided on Exhibit C. At LPGA and Center, the original Exhibit C has a sign that is smaller than what is presented now, and there was a pond with a fountain. The updated Exhibit C has a much larger monument sign and then has a grassed area. There is not a pond, but that pond that was originally there is not needed for stormwater management. It was more of an aesthetic feature. But the sign that they're providing now, as you see it, it's certainly going to be something that stands out. So those are the major changes as far as Exhibit C is concerned. The site plan that we have does not entirely match the updated Exhibit C, so they are going to have to be updating the site plan, not so much the engineering of it, but for example, the building sizes and things of that nature will have to be updated so that once we have Exhibit C updated, I would like to see, prior to October 1st, an updated site plan that we can have and review. But other than that, that's in a nutshell, the changes that have taken place.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Walker. Any questions for Mr. Walker? Thank you. All right, so I believe that we're all okay with that, unless there's an objection. Great. All right, so Joe, you understand where we all are, I'm sure, listening to this. So I believe you have your direction and to continue negotiations. And like I said, we look forward to continuing this partnership. The finish line is so close, so let's keep getting there. And I think that this is going to turn out to be really, really great thing for Holly Hill and for Synergy Billing. And we hope the best for you and continue to grow.
If Jason wants to say goodnight to everybody.
Okay, yep. Mr. Meyer?
I just want to thank the commission for their thoughtful remarks and support of the project. I think all of this is healthy and constructive, and just really grateful for the opportunity to bring my vision to life. And by granting an extension, once we've worked out these details, that will allow us to see the development to its full and complete state as originally envisioned. So very grateful for your consideration and for your time this evening. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Mr. Meyer. Vice Mayor?
Jeanette, just one question. Jeanette, does the state of Florida care where the match comes from? Do you get any more points if it's local like Holly Hill, or local county?
You get the same same consideration.
Okay.
It's which is great news.
Okay,
So,
Awesome.
thanks.
Any other comments?
thank you all for your time.
Great.
I do appreciate it. Look forward to this. Look forward to welcoming you all soon to an official event at the Fountainhead. We understand that hasn't happened yet, but we'll work on that with the chamber. And also seeing you all at the Mayor's Career Fair. We're not kidding about our commitment to employment in Holly Hill. And so we'll be at the Career Fair on August the 11th. We have several different positions that we're recruiting for, so.
Great. I was actually going to bring that up too, the Mayor's Career Fair.
We're
So
there.
thank you. Thank you for being there. That's right. All right. Is there anything further we need to discuss tonight, Mr. Forte? Or anything you'd like to add?
No, not in regards to this project.
Okay. All right. In regards to other projects?
Well, I just want to make you aware that tomorrow I am probably going to issue a letter out to the employees reinstating the COVID restrictions that were placed upon the city employees back in the winter and early spring months.
Okay.
Several of the other cities are imposing that now because the COVID positivity rate is increasing so much.
Can you remind us what those are? Do you?
As soon as I go back and look at the letter,
Okay.
I will. Masks.
Are you going to
masks?
resend the email?
Yeah. It'll be the masks, making sure that if you're outside your office, you're putting a mask on. It's only suggesting that members of the public wear a mask when they come into the building, but not required, things like that.
Okay.
And I got to take a look and see if anybody's doing anything with regard to that COVID leave that was in place back then. I'm not sure if they are or they aren't. But so far in the last couple of weeks, we've had 2 employees that have tested positive.
Okay. All right. Anything, other city business?
That's it for me.
Any other city business from a commissioner?
I will not be at our meeting next Tuesday. I'm out of town.
Next Tuesday? Okay. Next week. Anything further?
I gotta have to go check on Simpson's house.
All right. Seeing no further city business before us, this meeting is adjourned.
Turning off the tape.